Good morning, everybody. Welcome to the Monday call. Hope you had a good weekend and had great weather. I know a lot of the country did. Finally had a break from the heat, so that's great. Appreciate you being on the call. As usual, this is a great time for you to pick our brains. Let us know if you have any problems, any questions, things are going well, things are going poorly. Now's the time to let us know, because this is a great time that we share it with everybody, and everybody would benefit from your insight, questions, or whatever it may be. So as I go through the pointers here, if you just send a question to Missy via the chat, then she'll let me know when we get to a point that it would make sense. So thanks, everybody, and please, again, send those questions or comments through the chat. Excuse me, to Missy. So what I want to talk about, what I want to talk about today is, first of all, make sure that we understand how we move money. I've had two guys, one guy with a $400,000 case, another guy with a $350,000 case, that wrote the deal, and then had, after they wrote the deal, 2 days later, guess what they got? Anybody got to get a guess on what happened after 2 days? After the ink was drawing, as the ink was drawing, what happened? Anybody have a guess? Because we have to, you know what? Getting the deal signed, it's not done until what? Not done when the deal signed. It's done when the money has what? Moved. So both of them got requests via a voicemail, again, during working hours or during the evening, to do what? Hold everything. And why do you think, guys, let's see some answers to this. Why do you think they all of a sudden, after inking the deal, within the next 2 days decided they want to hold? What happened? So, Missy, tell me when they answer. I want to know what somebody answers. What do you think?
They got cold feet. Broker got involved.
Broker got involved. That's what happened. Broker got involved. So we covered this earlier in the summer, but I want to cover it again, because when I asked both these guys whether they did this, they had not done this. So what we want to do is move the money now. So we have the money moving script on the site. So we tell you exactly how to move the money. And leaving the broker script on the site. We have the bye-bye broker letter on the site. We have the ACAT, do not call letter on the site. Broker refuses to liquidate letter on the site. And we have a 1-hour training video. Like I said, I did this earlier in the summer to make sure that you knew this, because I would tell you that some of the guys that I've trained that have said this alone, that what we do here alone, helping you move the money, has doubled their income. And it simply has doubled their income because they had no more people with wet feet. So, guys, remember, when do you think the best time to move the money is? Do you think the best way to move money is via paperwork, via ACATs, via transfers via paperwork? Do you think that's the best way to move money, guys? And let's then Missy, tell me when to get some answers to that. Is that the best way to move money? What's the problem with moving money that way, guys? It takes what?
Time.
Time. It takes time. And guess what happens during that time? The broker's going to try to what? Save it. And possession is 9/10 of the law. And remember, people do not want hassles, and they do not want confrontation. So when the broker calls up and pushes and pushes and pushes for them to keep it there, generally they're going to keep it there. So the best way to move the money is right now. So think about this. What is the biggest accounts that we move? What kind of accounts? So Missy, tell me when we get some answers. What are the biggest types of accounts we move? Where is most people's money? The people we work with, where is most of their money, and what type of accounts?
Retirement, 401k, IRAs.
IRAs, exactly. Retirement IRAs. Can we move those monies? Let me ask you a question. Can we move those monies immediately? Can I have them transfer the money to me immediately? So if I meet with them on Tuesday, can I have that money under my control by Thursday? Money in their accounts with me by Thursday.
I've got one no. Another no.
See, that's the problem, guys. Go back and watch the 1-hour video. That's why you need to be on these Monday morning calls. So thank you for being on this call. But I tell you what, we covered this 2 months ago. No, Jeff, can I move the money on Tuesday and have it into our accounts by Thursday?
Yeah, you can have it moved over. I mean,
yeah.
You can.
Because, guys, here's the thing. Have you ever heard of the 60-day rule when it comes to IRAs and retirement accounts? If you haven't, you've been missing a huge opportunity. So what I do when I meet with my clients, once they've said, yes, Mike, I want to move this. Can we move this? How quickly can we move this? I said, well, there's a couple of ways we can move this. One is we can fill out a bunch of paperwork, and we can have it transferred. It'll take about, between 3 and 6 weeks to get it transferred, just so you know. Because remember, do your advisor think this is your money or his money? And what do they say? Well, he thinks it's his money. Exactly. So here's what's going to happen. We're going to fill out the paperwork for the transfer. And then about a week or a week and a half later, we're going to get all the paperwork back, and they're going to say, oh, no, we want it on the blue paper, not the yellow paper. Now, when we look at it, they're going to be identical. Everything that's on those forms is identical. And all they want to do is change from blue to yellow. Why do you think they do want to do that, folks? Well, because they want to keep my money. And we've done this, Jeff, we've been doing this for 10 years, haven't we?
Right.
And how many times have we seen, by this point, do the clients get it? Or do we have to really push when we're having?
No, they get it. They absolutely get it.
Yeah. So the blue rather than yellow. Why do you think? Well, because they want to keep our money. And really, the push comes to shove right now. You've decided to do what? Well, move the money. So with them trying to hold it, we can do that. We can absolutely do that. We can move it. I just want you to be prepared because it'll take 3 to 6 weeks to do that. And again, we've learned to jump through the hoops. We've learned that little trick, so we'll just guide you right through it. You may have to come in 1 or 2 more times just to re-sign paperwork because, again, they're thinking the money is whose again? Well, theirs. So we can do it that way, or we can move it right now, whichever you'd like to do. Which would you like to do? And what do they say 100% of the time, do you think, guys? If I give them those options, what do you think they're going to say? I don't tell them what to do. I say, we can move it via paperwork. It'll take 3 to 6 weeks, and you're going to have to jump through a lot of hoops, and I'll guide you through it, or you can move it right now. What do you think the clients say, guys?
Move it now. Now.
Now. So what I do is I say, well, let me show you something. I walk from my desk and walk over to the shelf, and I pull off tax facts. And if you don't have the book tax facts, you need to get it. And I already know where this tax facts looks very official. It's very, very believable. So what I do is I walk over to grab it, bring it over, open it up, and show them where the 60-day roll allows. It says, and I have them read it. So what does it say? It says, if you move the money out of an IRA, you have 60 days to get it back into an IRA, and there'll be no tax ramifications. I say, so this is what all my clients decide to do, is to do it this way. So we get it, we pull it out of the IRA, and then, folks, as long as we get it back in how many days? 60 days. So when we get it, it'll take about 2 or 3 days to get the money, and then we'll want to get the money back into the IRA, or what would happen? Well, if we don't do that, it'd be exactly. So do you think if we get it in the next 2 or 3 days, do you think we could possibly get it back in there in 60 days? Really, folks, it's about 1 week at the most, which gives us how much lead time or wiggle room? Well, tons of wiggle room. So would there be any tax ramifications if we pulled it out and put it back in? No, it wouldn't. So, we could do it that way if you want. Well, yeah, let's do it that way. So then what we do is we pick up the phone and we call the trading line. Why do we call the trading line? Because remember, folks, if you call up a broker and they're not in the office, what does their message machine say? What does the message machine say? Do not leave any trades. Do not leave any blah, blah, blah. Here's the number you need to call. So we just call that number. And if you don't have it, just look online to whatever company they work for, and there's the trading line right there. And then you call the trading line. And then you put and you introduce yourself, and you say, we're on a recorded line. So hello, Mary at Waddell & Reed. I'm here with Mr. and Mrs. Smith, and we're on a recorded line. And Mrs. and Mrs. Smith just want to make some changes to their accounts, and I'll put them on the line. Mr. and Mrs. Smith, would you introduce yourself to Mary? So they introduce themselves. So what we'll be doing today is they're going to be moving their IRA, and they're going to be using the 60-day rollover period, which there is no ramification as long as they get it with tax ramifications as long as we get back in within 60 days. Do you understand that, Mr. and Mrs. Smith? Oh, yes. So if we take the money out today, how long do we have to get it back into an IRA with no tax ramifications? 60 days. Okay, so we have that down, Mary. And Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you understand any surrender charges that are associated with this account? Yep. Do you understand where you've been moving the money? Yep. So would you, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, would you tell Mary what you'd like to do? And Mr. and Mrs. Smith say, we'd like you to transfer that money out today. Send me a check to my home of record. Now, if they have been trained in conservation, guess what they try to do at that point? They try to say, well, we can't really do that because they've been trained that if people are trying to move the money out, that they have to get that that client's broker involved. Well, we'll have to get your broker involved, and guess what the client will say? No, I'm placing the trade now. So are you willing to take responsibility that this trade does not go through, that your company will be held accountable for it? And if they try to do that, they simply, can we just get the compliance department, please? Now, if the compliance department, what is the compliance department? Let's see some answers to this. What is the compliance department worried about, guys? Is the compliance department worried about conservation? So let me see,
Lawsuits. Lawsuits, regulator.
That's what they're worried about. So once you get compliance on the phone, they know that when a client calls and tells the company they want to make a trade, what has to happen? It has to happen now. Now, I've had brokers say, really, this seems like you're pushy. This seems like you're... And, Jeff, you can pipe in here in a second. But, guys, think about this. What are the two reasons people don't want to move from their current advisor? Hassle and confrontation. When you offer this solution that you're willing to sit there and help them move the money where there's no hassle and you're handling the confrontation, they're not thinking you're pushy. They're like, you'll do that for me? Because you walk them through this whole process before you even pick up the phone. What's going to happen? You walk them through everything that's going to happen before you even pick up the phone. And they say, really, we can do that? You'll do that for me? And am I out to lunch, Jeff, when I say that? Are people thinking that you're really pushy when you offer to do this?
No, not at all. They don't think you're pushy at all. They just think you're being helpful.
And they want the move, they want the hassle to be done. They want the confrontation to be done, and they'd rather have it done in 2 days than in a gazillion years. Or, which is, some of you that have lived through ACATs, it does seem like a gazillion years because it's back and forth, back and forth. They call the client calls you, blah, 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 blah. And then if you do it this way, what you say before the end of the call, say, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, would you let Mary know, do you want your broker to call you? And guess what they're going to say? No. Mary, would you please put Mr. and Mrs. Smith, well, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, do you want to be on Waddell and Reed's Do Not Call list? Yes, we'd like to be on your Do Not Call list. Mary, would you please put them on your Do Not Call list? So, guys, how many of you are moving money that way? How many deals? I had 232 deals in 2 years, of which 2 signed paperwork and changed their mind. One because they were moving out of state, and another one because they had a health problem in the family. Otherwise, every single paperwork that was signed followed through. Why do you think that happened? Because I made sure that who was out of the picture permanently. Make sure you're doing this. This is one of the most powerful things that we teach you how to do. When you tell Mary at the beginning of the call that she's on a recorded line, how much funny business is she going to do? At the end, when you say, do not put the Mr. and Mrs. Smith say, put us on the do not call list, guess what's just happened? Because then when you hang up the phone and say, now, here's the thing. If your broker calls you, what list did you tell them to put you on? A do not call list. So basically, what he's doing when he calls you is he's breaking what kind of law? Well, the law, the do not call, exactly. You know what the fine is for that, folks? You know what? $10,000 per call. So if he calls, simply say, wow, did you know that you're about to be fined $10,000? And how soon will he get off the list? Now, that's the quickest way to do it. That's what I do. Now, all these other things you see on the screen here, the moving money script, leaving broker script, buy script, ACAT script, broker refuses liquidate script, all that stuff is if you don't want to do it that way. But Jeff, I mean, this other stuff works, doesn't it, Jeff? The moving money
absolutely.
script and all that. But what works better?
Yeah, doing it right there with them, right there in your office, walking them through what's going to happen on the phone, and then just making the phone call.
Guess what, guys? It's in whose control then? Yours. You completely gutted the other guy and prevented him from calling. He's no longer involved. So does anybody have any questions on this whatsoever? And I'm going to hold here for a minute to make sure we don't have any questions of this. This is by far the best way to move the money. And the clients don't look at you as pushy. They look at you as like, wow, you would do that for me? Do you guys see how this would help you out in moving the money? And because, guys, the number one reason I lost cases is why? Because the other guy what? Got involved, and possession is 9/10 of the law. So do you see how this would work? Do you have any questions on this whatsoever?
What do
there's
you?
nothing. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to say, question. What do you do with EIA conservation letter?
EIA, you're going to have to help me with that, Jeff. What's an EIA conservation letter?
I'm not sure what EIA conservation letter is either.
Index annuity. Okay, we're good on that part. Maybe he's saying that if they mail out the conservation letter after you put the request in. Okay, he's saying yes. That's what he's wondering about.
If they mail out the letter after you put the request in?
Correct.
I'm still confused.
So if they mail out the conservation letter after they put the request in for the transfer?
It says takes 1 month to get the letter.
You'll have to call us on that one.
Well, and let me just say,
Yeah.
I'm not sure this is the answer to the question, but here's an answer, and then if this isn't the answer, then we'll just need some clarification. I think what Mike is saying is, yeah, if you do it your way, if you don't do it this way, all kinds of things can happen. During that 6 weeks, they could get a letter from the company 3 weeks or 4 weeks into it. The broker could get involved 3 or 4 days later or 3 or 4 weeks later. They could change the paperwork that's required. I mean, all kinds of things could happen. But if you do it this way, none of those things are going to happen.
Because the client receives the check. The client, so when you do it this way, they send the check to the client. So if they have $350,000 in their IRA, the client gets a check for $350,000. And then all you do is photocopy the check, prove that you got it, and then put it right back in and photocopy it back with the app to put it into the new IRA. So there's proof. That's all the proof the IRS needs that the 60-day rule was taken care of. So if you have a question on that, certainly give us a call and we'll walk you through it. But tell you what, if you do it this way, you're not going to have the problems of moving a $350,000 IRA and then all of a sudden 2 days later getting a call of everything on hold because the broker got involved.
Okay. Couple more questions. Do you do the same thing with an insurance company as you would do with a brokerage account?
Yeah, if it's an IRA. If you want to do it quickly. I'm not saying you have to. I'm saying that's what I'd do, and that's what the guys that don't want problems do. Otherwise, you can do all we have. If you want to do it the paperwork way, we do have ways to try to circumvent the other guy from getting involved with this moving money script and the leaving the broker script and the bye-bye letter and all that. So you could. If you with an insurance company, sure, you could just do it the paperwork way if you want, or you could do it the way I just told you. We're not saying you have to do it this way, but this way it puts you in 100% in control and eliminates all the other problems you can get. So go ahead, Missy.
Here's another one. Eric says, great solution. If money being moved in a B-share mutual fund, there's, of course, surrender charges when they liquidate the account. Are there compliance issues with moving the money back into a product with contingent deferred sales charges?
Not if it's a different product. If you moved it from one B share into another B share, even if it's a different company, you would be fine. I mean, you have to have a reason to move. If I moved it from a B share that was in mutual fund, that was all in the utility stocks, and then I moved it to another B share fund that was all in utility stocks, that would be a problem. If I moved it from a B share in utility stocks to a B share in small cap, that is not a problem. If I move it from a B share in utility stocks to an FIA, that is not a problem. As long as the next investment is not identical to the previous investment, that's not going to be a problem. As long as the client understands the surrender charge of both the product he's leaving and the product that he's going into.
Perfect. And he says thanks for the clarification. So good to go there.
Good. So guys, you're not required to do this, but please, the saddest call I get is from a guy who's so excited about closing a $400,000 deal, and then he calls me back a week later to tell me what? You know, it's like, have you ever seen those funny videos, which some people think are funny and some people think are sad, where they pull a joke on on somebody, they give them one of those fake lottery tickets where they win $10,000. The people are all excited. They have it on video, all excited. They've won $10,000. They're jumping around. They're doing all sorts of crazy things. And then when everything settles down, everybody's in on the joke except for this person. And then they look at where they claim the money. And guess where you claim the money? At your mama's house. So then they realize, oh, your mama's house? What do you mean? Oh, this was a joke. And you see people cry. You see people just get totally demoralized. Now, why? They didn't have $10,000 5 minutes ago, and they didn't have $10,000 now. But see, in between there, they had that $10,000. When you give somebody something, you take it away, that's horrible. And I would tell you, the kind of conversations I have with guys who sold a $400,000 deal and are so happy, and then it goes through their fingers, because the other broker was still involved, there's nothing more demoralizing than that. And I just don't want you to go through it. I mean, I know what it's like. I've been there. Okay? So if you have any questions, then give Jeff or myself a call, and we'll walk you through how to do that. But it's by far the best way to get the money moved. Next thing I want to talk about is big mutual funds. Somebody brought up B-share mutual funds. I want to talk about mutual funds. You maybe won't be able to see this, but can you see my arrow going around, Missy?
Yep, sure can.
Okay. They see here, big funds hold all the assets. There are more than 7,600 mutual funds nationwide, but the largest 100, just a mere 1.3% of them control 30% of the assets, and that grows every single year. This is out of a Smart Money magazine article. So 1.3% of the funds, 100 of the funds, control 30% of the assets, and it grows every single year. Now, do you think that the larger the fund grows, the better it performs, or the worse it performs? What do you guys think? The larger the fund grows, the better it performs, or the worse it performs?
I've got a worse, a worse, a worse.
It's worse, a worse, a worse is right. So all of these different ones are talking about here. The Growth Fund of America, the Thornburg, PIMCO, Total Return, Dodge and Cox will go through what happened to those when things happen. And how many of you remember Fidelity Magellan? If you've been in the industry more than 20 years, you'll remember Fidelity Magellan was the king of mutual funds. It was the only place you could put your money because it was the only one that was beating everybody. Blah, 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 blah. Well, it grew to be the largest mutual fund ever, but you know what happened to it in the last decade? So after peaking at $106 billion in early 2000, the famed Fidelity Magellan Fund now stands at 1/5 of that, at $15 billion. So what happened to that $51 billion, do you think, guys? Think about that. That's equivalent to $175 per U.S. resident. What happened to that? Well, part of it evaporated in losses, and the remainder went elsewhere because as it continued to plummet and plummet, people started to pull out their money. So since 2008, the average top funds have increased by 62%. That's what I'm saying. That 30%, that 1.3% of funds owning 30% of the funds, that's not decreasing. That's increasing over and over and over. So what do we say here? That's $35 billion, I believe, a month that it's going up. So what is the biggest fund today? PIMCO Total Return, $244 billion. Guys, think about this. $244 billion, and their annual fees, I think, are like 0.85 or something like that. How much money is that, guys? So why is that important? So let's see some answers. Why is the fact that they still the expense ratio is 0.8 and it's on $244 billion? What's important about that? So let's see some answers. Because guys, first of all, does it take any more effort for a fund to manage the fund when it's $10 billion as it does at $244 billion?
Nope.
But
Nope.
they're making how much more money?
$2 billion in fees.
So what should they be doing right now? Decreasing the expense ratios. But you know what they found on a lot of these funds? Have they found that the PIMCO is the exception? PIMCO actually has reduced their expense ratio a little bit, but some of the other huge funds we're going to talk about have actually increased their expense ratios. Why? Why do you think they would increase their expense ratios as the value went up? Because they can. That's why. So are they really concerned about their shareholders, guys? Well, why do funds get huge? Well, they started out, they get huge because they start out having great rate of returns, then they become stars in all the magazines, so then what does everybody do? They're like lemmings. What do investors do? When a mutual fund is touted in Money Magazine or Smart Money Magazine or Fortune or Wall Street Journal, what happens to that mutual fund overnight? Gets huge. Smart Money determined the average mega funds ranked below 40% of their peers in returns. After they become large, what happens? They start underperforming. They rank in the bottom 40% of their peers. PIMCO Total Return was in the bottom 15% of its peers last year. And one giant fund has lagged 97% of its rivals over a period of 5 years. Here's the funny thing. Smart Money Magazine would not name this fund. Now, we could find out which one it was in Morningstar, but they wouldn't name this fund. Why not? Any guesses on why Smart Money Magazine would not name this one giant fund that's lagged behind 97% of its rivals over a period of 5 years? Tell me if we get an answer here, Missy.
They get advertising from them.
Yes! Yes! They get advertising from it. Are they going to really name the giant fund that's lagged behind 97% of its rivals over the period of 5 years when it places big ads in their magazine? So here's some other examples. BlackRock Global attracts $125 million each week. $125 million each week the last 3 years, yet it has lagged the majority of its peers during those years. Dodge & Cox, $37 billion, lagged S&P 500 for 5 years. Davis Venture, $44 billion. $10,000 investment in 2006 would be worth $8,900 today. You lost money with that one. Growth Fund of America topped $150 billion in 2006, has lagged the S&P 500 ever since. It's lagged 77% of its peers over the last 3 years, and it generates $423 million a year in management fees to lag almost 80% of its peers. It generates $423 million a year in management fees to lag almost 80% of its peers. Does that make any sense, guys? The top biggest funds earn $3 billion in fees. And remember, are the amount of money going into those funds going up or going down, guys? It's going up.
Up.
So that means more and more often, 30% of all money out there is in these funds. So the likelihood of you running into somebody in one of these funds is 1 in what?
5, 1 in 1, 1 in
10. 3. Guys, if 30%, if 30% of the money is in these these mega funds, it's a 1 in 3. So here's the thing: when you run into these huge funds, you need to be to talk in a manner that these people, the clients, get the stupidity of being in a huge fund. Think about this: turnover fees. So turnover fees are the cost, the hidden cost. It's the biggest hidden cost that people pay. It's not in the prospectus. It's been they're trying to put it in the prospectus, but of course the mutual fund industry is lobbying heavily against it because the hidden fees are probably the biggest fees people are going to pay. So these hidden fees, these turnover fees, are like this. If you have a turnover ratio of 50%, that means that if I have 100 stocks in there, on average, 50 of those stocks are going to be sold and replaced with the new stocks in that next year. That's a 50% turnover ratio. If I have a 200% turnover ratio, that means if I have a portfolio of 100 stocks, we're going to buy, or we're going to sell them once and buy new ones, and sell those again and buy new ones. So we're going to do that twice in a year. So here's the thing: when you talk about these mega funds, do they have $10 million in a stock, or do they have $150 million in a stock? Do they own 0.3% of the company, or do they own 3 or 4% of the company? When they own these huge chunks of companies, when they want to get rid of the company and they sell that stock, what's it going to do to the stock price, guys? So when these huge funds want to get out of a stock and they start selling that stock to get out, what happens to the stock price, guys?
Drops it down, moves the price down.
Drops it down. So if I'm in a small fund and they want to sell $10 million of a stock, that's not a big deal. But when they start selling $150 million of a stock or $200 million of a stock, that affects the price even more. So guess what happens to the turnover costs with large funds? Are they less or more than so let's say we have a small fund with a a 150% turnover ratio and a mega fund with a 150% turnover ratio? Would the turnover cost be the same for a small fund with the exact same percentage, with a turnover ratio of 150% for both of them? Would the costs be the same or different for that small fund or the huge fund? Would they be the same? Because, they have the same turnover ratio. And as we show you in our proposal, Jeff, what's the current turnover ratio for our cost?
2.4%.
2.4%. So, guys, would it be 2.4% for both of those funds? Let's see if anybody gets this.
No.
No. So who would have the higher turnover ratio cost?
More expensive for bigger funds, smaller for small
Yes.
funds.
Yep. More expensive for bigger funds, less expensive for small funds, because the big funds are going to move the market more, which will cause the fee to go up higher. And again, these are not fees that are reported in Morningstar. They're not fees that are reported in the prospectus. You have to actually calculate those fees. Morningstar gives you the information to calculate the fees, but they don't actually quote the fees, because the fees are different for every type of fund. So the 2.4 is the average. Large funds would even have more. Smaller funds would have less. So does that make sense? And you're going to run into if these things are growing at 62% a year, you're going to run into more and more people putting them into these funds. Does that make sense to everybody? Do you see how you can use this? Any questions? I'll take that as a no.
Nope, nothing.
Okay, super.
Oh, wait, whoops, I'm sorry. Where's the SEC, our watchdog?
Yeah, exactly. Where are they? Well, where were they with B-share mutual funds for years? Where were they with the whole debacle with the banks and everything we went through the last 5 years? I agree. I mean, the SEC is a joke. Well, look at what the SEC requires. We even use this in our events, right? The SEC tells advisors they can only illustrate what kind of return. It's right in the Take a Brain for a Jog. So the SEC says you can only illustrate what rate of return on illustrations. It used to be 12 until just a couple of years ago. They used to allow a 12% rate of return illustration. What is it down to now?
10%?
10%.
8%?
What is the market average for the last 100 years, guys? Because the longer we look at it, the more realistic the return is, right? So what is the market average for the last 100 years? It's in your Take Your Brain for a Jog. What have we averaged?
I've got a 7.1, an 8, a 3.
About a 7, right? It's between 7 and 8%. Yet the SEC says you can average what? You can illustrate what? Used to be a 12% rate of return, which is 50% higher than the actual return we've ever seen. Then they said, oh, that's too much. Now they're only 20% or 20, what is it? 25% higher. So yeah, where is the SEC? The SEC who has for years been trying to come after the insurance industry because they think we're unethical. Goodness sakes. At least the stuff that we offer to people are guaranteed, and we don't lie. I mean, guys, when you offer an insurance product, you have to over-report everything you do. As compared on the security side, there's all sorts of bonds do not have, are the only security out there where you don't have to report a commission. The SEC, we just got done talking about the SEC missing the biggest debacle in history when they were out chasing FIAs, saying that FIAs were bad. Maybe if they spent less time going after FIAs and more time doing what they're supposed to be doing, we wouldn't be in the debacle we're in right now. Because how many people lost money the last 5 years in FIAs? And how many trillions of dollars has this country lost because of the debacle that SEC missed? So I can go on and on about that. Yeah, they're not the watchdogs. It's a joke.
I've got a preach it, brother, and an amen, so I guess that pretty much sums everything up.
Yeah, you get me going on that, man, and I can go nuts, so apologize for that, but it makes me angry as heck. So client advisory boards. This is something that if you have clients, you absolutely should be doing continually, and I want to show you a little twist on that, on how you could really generate a ton of referrals, because push comes to shove, we would love for all of our clients to come to us from referrals, wouldn't we? So I want to show you a little twist in the client advisory board and how you can do that.
Hey, Mike,
So if you don't, yeah.
before you go into that, the slides that you just went through, are all of those facts in the Smart Money Magazine issue or month that
So I'll go back there. It is the
May 2012.
May 2012.
Perfect.
So all those facts are right in that article.
Thank you.
Yeah, so if you can buy a back issue of that magazine, I'd buy it. Let's get through here. So client advisory boards. I'm going to show you a little twist on how to use those. So first of all, why do we do them? They do a lot of things for us. They give us all sorts of ideas that we hadn't thought about because our clients are very bright people, and they can come up with all sorts of ideas we would never have thought of. They also let you know if things are not going well. See, we are insulated from what's happening in our practice because we're not the ones calling up our office asking for help. We're not the ones talking to our assistant. We're not the ones, we do not view our practice through the eyes of our clients. So it's a fantastic way to get an idea of how well your practice is taking care of the clients. It helps you see things from the client's perspective. It also creates loyalty. It creates referrals. I'm going to show you a fantastic way to create referrals because that's the way we want to get all of our clients, right? If we had our druthers, we'd have all of our clients come to us from referrals. So on the site, we have a manual for doing client advisory boards. So who should you invite? I would invite your top 9 people. I would recommend that you have somewhere between 8 or 9 people in a client advisory board. So you're going to invite 8 or 9 people or 10 people to an advisory board. But you know what? If I had 100, let me ask you this question. If I had 100 clients, how many advisory boards would I have, guys? How many advisory boards would I do? If I had 100 clients, how many advisory boards would I do? Or try to do at least. So let's see if we get any answers here. If we want 10, let's just say, if we want 10 people in our client advisory boards and I have 100 clients, how many client advisory boards would I try to do?
I've got 10.
10, exactly. And would I separate them out over 10 years? Let me ask you that. Would I separate them out over 10 years?
No.
No, I would try to do as many as possible. You can do more than one client advisory board at one time. I may have 3 client advisory boards running at one time. Okay, so you're going to try to get 10 people, be satisfied with 8 in a group. How do you do it? Well, in the manual, we give you the phone script that you approach the people. You don't send them a letter. You do it on a phone script because that you can explain to them what you're doing, why you're doing it, and get them involved emotionally and why it would be a good idea. So we give you that script in the manual. So where do you hold these? That's the great thing about these. You just can hold them right in your conference room. You can hold them in a coffee shop. You can hold them wherever you want. You can spend as much or as little as on these. As much, you shouldn't spend that much on them. You should spend no more than coffee and donuts on these. It's about a working, or maybe a boxed lunch or a boxed dinner, or serving pie and coffee later in the evening. So you can have them anywhere. The cheaper, the better. So what are you going to do? Again, in the manual, we actually give you exactly what you're going to do. We tell you how to conduct the first meeting, which is going to be a little bit different than the rest of the meetings. We tell you how to conclude the meetings. We tell you how to form an agenda, what to hand out during those client advisory boards. But here's the thing. You want to have them about a purpose. Well, here's the little twist on the client advisory board. Here's what, and I've talked to the majority of the people, a majority of you guys over the last couple of days, and I'm speaking to more of you here in the next couple of days about your fall marketing. And you know that every single person I talked about your 5Q USP, your elevator speech. Here's a fantastic way to use client advisory boards. You know what your 5Q USP is, but instead of just coming around and using it, why don't you do a client advisory board and then coach them and help you come up with a great 5Q USP using all the rules that we have. Number 1, being something that none of your competitors complain. Number 2, being something that addresses a solution for something that frustrates, angers, or creates greed in your target market. Rule number 3, something that's very, very, very specific. Rule number 4, that it's 1 sentence or less. And then rule number 5, remember, is testing it out to see if people say, how do you do that? How does he do that? So here's the thing. If your client advisory board creates a 5Q USP for you, let me see if you guys get this. If you and your client advisory board over 2 or 3 meetings create a fantastic 5Q USP, the 5th rule is test it out to 10 people, and at least 5 of them say, how does he do that? Then you have a great 5Q USP. So what task do you think you're going to give your client advisory board after you develop your great 5Q USP, guys? So I'll wait for an answer.
Test it.
After you, yeah, go ahead, Missy.
I've got
Test
respond
it,
to a test USP, test it, more interest.
Test it. So what you're going to ask is for them to go out and use it on 10 of their friends, neighbors, relatives, or colleagues to see if they get a 50% of those people saying, how does he do that? Guys, if you have, let's say, 8 people in your advisory board, and they go out and test it on 10 people, they've now reached out to how many people? Let's see how your high math is. 8 people are testing your 5Q USP with 8 colleagues, with 10 colleagues, friends, relatives, etc. That means what? 8 times 10 is what?
80.
80. So now you've got your clients out there trying to generate at least 80 referrals. If you created a great 5Q USP, guess how many of those people are going to say, how does he do that? At least 40, if not 50 or 60. Now what do you have, guys? And how much did it cost you to do this? How much did it cost you to do it? Pie and coffee 3 or 4 times.
Donuts.
Box lunches 3 or 4 times. Donuts 3 or 4 times. Please. Now, if you don't have clients, you can't do this. But if you have clients, guys, if you have clients and you're not doing this, how silly are you? How silly would it be to have clients and not do this? How many of you would like to have the possibility of getting your clients out to talk about giving 80 people your 5Q USP? Do you get this? So please, if you have clients, get busy on this. Even if you're doing, guys, with client advisory boards, can you do this and the events at the same time? Or is it an either or? And Missy, you've helped people get these client advisory boards going. Logistically, how difficult is it?
The process is pretty simplistic.
Yes, guys, you're working with your clients who already know and like you. It's really simple. It does not require, you can easily do events and this at the same time. It's not a big deal. I would highly recommend that you're doing this. If you're not going to do it during the fall because you're so busy with the events, well, then at least get them planned for November and December that you're going to do this client advisory board with the 5QSP. Do you get the power of what we're talking about here with this? Seems like a simple idea, but guys, we're talking about a possibility of doing 50 and 80 referrals with people who are interested, asking, hey, how does he do that? Is that a good thing or a bad thing? How much would you pay? Think about this. If I said, hey, I'm going to magically wave a magic wand, and I'm going to get you 80 referrals or 50 referrals from your clients, how much would you write a check for if I could do that? I know what I'd write a check for. How much would you write a check for, Jeff, if I could give you 80 referrals or 40 referrals? Let's just say 40. If I give you 40 referrals from your clients, how much would you write a check for?
I'd easily write a check for 10 grand more.
Oh, I'd write you a check for $100,000. Why would I do that, guys? What's 40 referrals worth? Well, let me ask you guys a question. Let's give me an answer on this, Missy. How many referrals on average, what percentage of referrals do you guys close?
80, 50.
What percentage? Yeah, 50 to 80, I would go along with that. I would hope that it would be closer to the 80 than the 50, but let's just go with 50 because that's worst case scenario. Because if you're only closing 50% of referrals, then, because guys, referrals are coming into you. Why? Why are referrals coming into you? Because they have a what? Problem. They realize that they're lacking something, that they've trust their friend enough to refer them to somebody who can solve that problem for them. So really, when a referral comes in, it's only yours to lose. You really don't. The only thing that can happen with a referral is you lose the deal, not that you get the deal, because they've already come in pre-sold from your client's referral. But let's go with 50. So out of 40, if we only get 20 sales, what's 20 sales worth? What's 20 sales worth? Say with an average, again, let's say an average with the referrals, let's do it easy. $100,000 $100,000. So you $100,000 times 20 is what?
2 million?
2 million. Yeah. And here's the great thing. Guess what you can do with those 20 new clients that you had? What could you do with those 20 new clients you brought in? 6 months
Get
from
more
now, what could you do?
referrals.
Yes.
Another advisory board. Yep.
Yes, exactly. This is a very powerful tool. Please write it down. Please, everybody stop right now. Write it down with a red magic marker on a piece of paper and tape it somewhere in your office so you look at it and you look at it and look at it to actually do this. Because I said I'd pay $100,000 and my profit would be probably $30,000 or $40,000 on that. Jeff's profit at paying $10,000 would have been what, 1,300% on it. And
yeah, I would have made about $110,000, $120,000.
Yeah, and with and how much would this cost you guys total? If you did 3 of these at one time, would be what, $500? So you do 3 of these at one time. Now your referrals have gone from what? From 40 to 80 to 120 referrals. Now how much you're going to make? So if you have the luxury of having clients, get busy on this. Does that make sense to everybody? If you need any help, call Jeff or myself. We'll be happy to walk you through after you go through the manual on how to adjust it a little bit to make the topic your 5Q USP, okay? Super. Well, that's all I've got, but please stop right now, because you know what? So many people I've talked to, and Jeff, can you validate this? They'll think, oh, that's a fantastic idea, and then we ask them 6 months from now, and what do they say?
Yeah, they haven't done it.
Yeah, and oh, yeah, I remember that. I haven't done that yet. I got to get to, no. Write it down with a magic marker, tape it somewhere in your office so you look at this until you do it, okay? If you've got clients, you need to do this. Super. So I appreciate all you guys. Thanks for, I've enjoyed all the conversations I had with everybody so far and that I'll be having this week. If you haven't yet scheduled your time to talk to me, please schedule with Tricia. She's kind of reached out to you already, so we can get those times scheduled. I think I've got a lot of feedback from guys that they've gotten a lot out of those calls. Some calls have been 5 minutes long, some have been an hour long, and we've done some mentoring at the same time because they used that as an opportunity to say, I've been having some problems here. We've worked right through it. So please schedule those. And again, thanks to everybody who's already talked to me and to the people who've already scheduled. And you guys, we're here to help you. And just to kind of a heads up, because all of you at this point, every single person except for one has scheduled three events for September, October, November. One in September, 2 in October, like we suggested. So thank you for doing that. The one is actually just scheduling 2 because they're trying to drum up enough money to do those because they've had some personal setbacks. So he's working, and even with the personal setbacks, he said, I'm not going to let those personal setbacks get in my way. I'll find the money, and he's going to do it. So there's going to be a lot of events happening here in the fall. So what we're going to do is we're going to have 3 additional voluntary coaching calls the first week and 3 voluntary coaching calls the second week via phone and hopefully via video chat as we get to that point. So we'll have 6 in the first 2 weeks of September to make sure you guys are fully prepared for your events in the fall season. So totally voluntary, but if you can make those calls, it'll sharpen your act so that when you have those events, you're going to be closing a lot of business this fall, okay? So again, appreciate all you guys, and hope you have a great week. Do we have any questions, comments before we let everybody go, Missy?
Nope, nothing is coming
All right.
in.
Super, guys, and you have a fantastic week, and we will talk to you soon. Thanks, everybody.